In this video, we're going to talk about saints celebrated on the 8th of every month. On January 8th, the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches commemorate several saints, including Saint Gudula, also known as Saint Gudula of Brabant, Saint Apollinaris the Apologist, Saint Thorfinn, Saint Gregory of Ochrid, and Saint Abbo of Tiflis. Saint Gudula, 646-712, saint venerated in the Catholic Church, particularly in Brabant, and the patroness of Brussels. Saint Apollinaris, the Apologist, 2nd century, an early Christian saint known for his defense of the faith. Saint Thorfinn of Hamar, died 1285, the Bishop of Hamar, Norway, later exiled and canonized by Pope Alexander VIII. Saint Severinus, 482, the enlightening figure of Noricum, the area of present-day Austria. Okay, then we go on to February. On February 8th, the Roman Catholic Church celebrates the feast of day of Saint Josephine Bakita, a Sudanese-born former slave who became a religious sister and is the patron saint of victims of human trafficking. This day also serves as the International Day of Prayer and Awareness Against Human Trafficking, as designated by Pope Francis. About Saint Josephine Bakita. Born in Sudan, she was born in Darfur around 1869 and was kidnapped at the age of 9. A life of slavery, she experienced the horrors of being sold and resold into slavery for many years. Freedom and religious life. After gaining her freedom, she became a Canossian sister in Italy, dedicating her life to helping others. Canonized in 2000. She was canonized in the year 2000, symbol of hope. Her story is a powerful example of overcoming hardship, and her gentleness and resilience, even in the face of suffering, inspire many. Significance of the day. Raising awareness. The day highlights the ongoing issue of human trafficking and modern slavery, with the theme of journeying in dignity. Listen, Dream, Act in 2024, according to the Catholic Archdiocese of Perth. Prayer and reflection. It is a time for people to pray for the victims of human trafficking and reflect on how to combat this evil. A message of hope. Saint Bakita's life serves as a reminder that even in the darkest of times, dignity and hope can prevail. And we have March. The saint celebrated on March 8th is Saint John of God, a Portuguese-born former soldier who became a dedicated healthcare worker in Spain, known for founding the religious order the Brothers Hospitallers of Saint John of God, to serve the sick and poor. His feast day marks his profound spiritual transformation and dedication to helping marginalized people, following a deep personal conversion. Who was Saint John of God? A soldier turned saint, born as Juan Ciudad in 1495. He initially worked as a shepherd and then served as a soldier for 18 years. A profound conversion. After a spiritual transformation inspired by a sermon from Saint John of Avila, he decided to dedicate his life to God's service. The public cry for mercy. His public expressions of repentance led to his commitment to a mental hospital. Founder of an order. Upon his release, he dedicated himself to serving the sick and the poor, eventually establishing a hospital in Granada where he tended to their needs. The Brothers Hospitallers. His followers later formed the Brothers Hospitallers of St. John of God, a Catholic religious institute still active in providing care for the sick and those with mental disorders. Key events on his feast day, March 8th, remembering his life. The day commemorates his radical commitment to charity, humility, and service after abandoning a more dissolute early life. Patron of healthcare, he is remembered as a patron saint of the poor, the sick, and those with mental disorders, a role that continues through his order. And then we have April. On April 8th, the Catholic and Orthodox churches commemorate several saints, notably Saint Julie Billiart, Catholic, and the Apostle Herodian, Orthodox. Saint Julie Billiart was a French nun who founded the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, while Herodian was a companion of Saint Paul and one of the 70 apostles. Other figures remembered on this day include Saint Niphon of Novgorod, Saint Amantius of Como, and the martyr Pausilippus of Heraclea. Catholic saints Saint Julie Billiart, 1751-1816, born in Cuvilley, France. She founded the Institute of the Sisters of Notre Dame de Namur, an order dedicated to the education of the poor. She is remembered for her holiness and courage during the French Revolution and for being miraculously cured of paralysis. She is the patron of educators, Orthodox saints, Apostle Herodian, Rodian of the 70, a relative of St. Paul and a companion on his journeys. He was one of the 70 apostles chosen by Christ to preach. He was later Bishop of Petra, but went to Rome with the Apostle Peter. Saint Niphon, Bishop of Novgorod, a monk of the Kiev Caves Monastery, who was devoted to asceticism, fasting, and prayer. Venerable Rufus the Obedient, a hermit and lover of labor from the Kiev Caves Monastery. Martyr Pausilippus of Heraclea in Thrace. He suffered under Emperor Hadrian. Saint Celestine, Pope of Rome, a zealous defender of the Orthodox faith during the reign of Emperor Theodosius the Younger. Saint Amantius of Como, the third bishop of Como. He founded the basilica in honor of the apostles. Other commemorations. The feast day of Saint Amantius of Como also falls on April 8th. 8th May Saint. The primary saint commemorated on May 8th is Saint Michael the Archangel, with the feast day celebrating the apparition of Saint Michael at Monte Gargano, Italy, in 492 AD. This day, also known as Michaelmas, is a tradition in the Catholic Church that spread from the Eastern Church and is distinct from the main feast day of Saint Michael on September 29th. Details of the May 8th feast. Event: the apparition of Saint Michael the Archangel to the Bishop of Siponto at Monte Gargano, May 8th. It commemorates Saint Michael's pledge of presence and protection, marking the location as a sacred place for worship. The veneration of Saint Michael, a major archangel, began in the east and spread to the west with the Monte Gargano sanctuary dedicated in the 6th century. Traditions and law in England and Ireland. This day was once a great religious feast and was associated with harvest traditions. Folklore suggests it was traditional to eat goose on Michaelmas in England, while in Ireland finding a ring in a pie meant you would soon be married. It's also said to be the last day for picking blackberries, as the devil cursed the fruit after falling into a prickly bush. Then we have 8th of June, And the primary saint celebrated on June 8th is Saint Medard of Noyon, a 6th century bishop known for his kindness to the poor and as the legendary weather saint, with folklore suggesting his feast days. Weather influences the next 40 days. Other saints with a feast day on June 8th include Saint Michael of the Saints, a 17th century Trinitarian priest canonized for miracles after his death, and Saint Clodulphus of Metz, a 7th century bishop and son of a previous bishop. Saint Medard of Noyon, who he was, Bishop of Noyon, France, and a missionary who worked for the conversion of the Franks. Key association: he is known as a weather saint. Folklore: a popular legend says that if it rains on his feast day, it will rain for the following 40 days. Patronage: he is a patron saint of vineyards, brewers, and peasants, and is invoked against toothache, bad weather, and imprisonment. Saint Michael of the Saints, 1591 1624, a Spanish Trinitarian priest, venerated for his service to the poor and sick. He was canonized in 1862 after cures attributed to his intercession were presented as miracles. Saint Clodulphus, 605 696, a bishop of Metz who was known for his holiness and charity. He was the son of Saint Arnulf of Metz. Then we have July. On July 8th, the Catholic and Orthodox churches commemorate Saints Aquila and Priscilla and Saint Kilian, along with his companions, Colman and Totman, respectively. Aquila and Priscilla were a 1st century Christian missionary couple who hosted St. Paul and were known for their strong commitment to forming new believers. St. Kilian was an Irish missionary bishop martyred in Germany in the 7th century, with Colman and Totten serving as his priest and deacon companions. Saints Aquila and Priscilla, who they were: a 1st century Jewish Christian married couple from Rome, well known for their missionary work and friendship with St. Paul. Their work: they were tent makers, worked alongside St. Paul in Corinth and Ephesus, and their home served as an important gathering place for early Christian communities. Significance: their lives exemplify the crucial role of Christian spouses in supporting and serving the church. St. Kilian, Colman, and Totnan, who they were: an Irish missionary bishop, Kilian, with his companions, a priest, Colman, and a deacon, Totnan, martyred in Germany around 689 AD. Their work: they were sent to evangelize Franconia and Thuringia, converting Duke Cosbert and his people, but were martyred by the Duke's enraged former wife. Significance: St. Kilian is known as the Apostle of Franconia, and their story highlights the dangers and triumphs of early missionary efforts. And then we have August. The primary saint celebrated on August 8th is Saint Dominic de Guzman, also known as Saint Dominic of Caleruga. He was a Spanish priest, founder of the Dominican Order of Preachers, and is credited with helping to spread and popularize the devotion to the Holy Rosary. Key facts about Saint Dominic. Founder of the Dominicans, Saint Dominic founded the Order of Preachers around 1216, which combines prayer and study with active preaching. Proponent of the Rosary, he is traditionally associated with spreading and popularizing the devotion to the Holy Rosary. Dedication to preaching: Dominic dedicated his life to preaching the gospel and proclaiming salvation, working to convert and reach people, especially in areas where the faith was lacking. A man of prayer and social action, he was known for combining deep prayer and contemplation with a social commitment to serve others. Born in Spain, Dominic was born in Caleruga, Castile, modern-day Spain, around 1170. And then we have September. On September 8th, the primary feast is the Nativity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. This feast commemorates the birth of the mother of Jesus, a special day that is also celebrated for Jesus and John the Baptist. Key details about feast day. Commemoration. The day celebrates the birth of Mary, recognized as a crucial figure in God's plan for salvation. Historical context. The celebration was established in the East and later introduced to Rome, with the date chosen to align with the beginning of the Eastern Church. Yeah. And to help set the date for the Feast of the Immaculate Conception on December 8th. Significance. The event highlights the special presence of God in Mary's life from the very beginning. Biblical basis. While the Bible does not provide a detailed account of Mary's birth, the apocryphal Protoevangelium of James provides a traditional narrative of her conception and birth from infertile parents who prayed for a child. Tradition. The feast is a significant one, as the Church only celebrates the birth of these three figures, Jesus, Mary, and John the Baptist. And then we have October. On October 8th, the Catholic and Orthodox churches commemorate several saints, including Saint Pelagia the Penitent, a former harlot from Antioch, and Saint Thais of Egypt, another penitent woman who converted from a life of sin. In the Eastern Orthodox tradition, Saint Simeon is also remembered on this day, along with other saints such as Pelagia the Virgin, Dositheus of Pskov, and Trypho of Vyatka. Saint Pelagia the Penitent, or Pelagia of Antioch, the 4th or 5th century Christian saint, originally a prostitute and dancer in Antioch, who converted to Christianity. The feast day is celebrated by both the Catholic and Orthodox churches. Saint Thais of Egypt, a former harlot from Egypt who was converted and became a hermit, with her feast day celebrated by the Catholic Church. Simeon in the Eastern Orthodox Church, the righteous father whose encounter with the infant Jesus and Mary is described in the Gospel of Luke. Pelagia the Virgin, another saint from Antioch, who is also venerated on October 8th. Dositheus of Pskov and Trypho of Vyatka, other figures recognized as righteous fathers in the Eastern Orthodox tradition. We have November. On November 8th, the Eastern Orthodox Church commemorates the synaxes of the holy archangels, Michael, Gabriel, and all the bodiless powers, while the Western Catholic tradition they also include Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity or the Four Crown Martyrs, including Saint Castorius on this date. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, holy archangels, the primary feast is the synaxes of the holy archangels, honoring Archangel Michael, the supreme commander, Archangel Gabriel, and all the other angelic beings who praise God. In the Catholic Church, Saint Elizabeth of the Trinity, a French Carmelite mystic and spiritual writer who died in 1906, Four Crown Martyrs. This group includes Saint Castorius, who was patron saint of sculptors. According to legend, they were carvers who were tortured and executed. And then we have December. On December 8th, the Catholic Church observes the solemnity of the Immaculate Conception, a feast day honoring the Blessed Virgin Mary. She was conceived without original sin.